They laughed first. Not loudly, no, that would have been rude, but with those tight smiles and sideways glances that cut deeper than words. If you've ever been judged before you even spoke, if you've ever felt invisible in a room full of people, stay with this story, because what happened next silenced every single one of them. Margaret Collins stood near the back of the grand hall, clutching a worn leather handbag that had seen better decades. Her cardigan was faded at the elbows, her shoes sensible but scuffed. Around her, the annual Northbridge Academy Founders Gala shimmered with wealth, tailored suits, silk dresses, diamond laughter echoing off marble walls. Margaret looked like she had wandered into the wrong world, and everyone noticed. This was the school where her daughter, Emily Collins, had studied on a scholarship years ago. Tonight was meant to celebrate alumni success stories. Margaret almost didn't come. She'd stared at her reflection earlier that evening, tugging at the hem of her old dress, whispering to herself, "You don't belong there." But Emily had insisted. "Mom, just come. Please." So she did. As Margaret waited, she overheard voices behind her. "Is she staff?" a woman in emerald green murmured. "No," another replied softly, eyes flicking toward Margaret's shoes. "Probably someone's plus one. Or a cleaner who got lost." They chuckled. Margaret pretended not to hear, the way she'd learned to do long ago. Her life had been built on endurance. Years earlier, when Emily was just 6, Margaret's husband, Thomas Collins, died suddenly of a heart condition. One moment he was laughing at the breakfast table, the next he was gone. No savings. No safety net. Just grief, a tiny rented flat, and a child who asked every night when Daddy was coming home. Margaret worked wherever she could, cafes, laundromats, night cleaning offices, sometimes 2 jobs, sometimes 3. She skipped meals so Emily could eat. She stitched torn clothes instead of buying new ones. When Emily showed an early gift for numbers and problem-solving, Margaret nurtured it with library books and free online lessons, sitting beside her after exhausting shifts, fighting sleep just to listen. Northbridge Academy had been Emily's miracle. A full scholarship after a grueling selection process. On the first day, Margaret had walked Emily to the gates, holding her hand tightly. Other parents arrived in luxury cars, wearing confidence like perfume. Margaret wore second-hand clothes and hope. She remembered a man once asking, kindly but clearly confused, "Are you sure this is the right school?" She smiled and said, "Yes. My daughter belongs here." Emily thrived. She studied harder than anyone, worked part-time, and never forgot where she came from. While others partied, she coded. While others complained, she built. After university, she launched a small financial tech startup from a borrowed garage. Margaret watched her work nights just as she once had, eyes burning with determination. Within 6 years, that startup exploded into a global company. Emily Collins became one of the youngest self-made millionaires in the region, quietly, without headlines. Back at the gala, Margaret felt more out of place by the minute. A waiter passed with champagne. She declined politely. Her hands shook slightly. She wondered if she should leave before the embarrassment deepened. Then the lights dimmed. A man stepped onto the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, "tonight we celebrate one of our most remarkable alumni. A visionary entrepreneur, philanthropist, and proud graduate of Northbridge Academy. Please welcome, Ms. Emily Collins, CEO of Collins and Hart Financial Solutions." Applause thundered through the hall. Margaret's breath caught. From the side of the stage walked Emily, confident, elegant, composed. She wore a simple black dress, no excessive jewelry, her posture straight, her eyes calm. She scanned the room as she approached the microphone, and then she saw her mother. Emily smiled. Not the polite smile she gave investors, but the soft, genuine one that belonged only to Margaret. The room settled into silence as Emily began to speak. "Thank you," she said. It's an honor to be here. This school changed my life. But before I talk about success, I want to talk about sacrifice. Some guests shifted in their seats. I grew up in a home where money was scarce, but love was abundant, Emily continued. When my father passed away, my mother became everything: provider, teacher, protector. She worked jobs no one here would want to brag about. She wore clothes that told the world nothing about her strength. Margaret's eyes filled with tears. Emily took a breath. Tonight, I see many familiar faces. I also see someone very special standing quietly at the back. She turned fully now, her gaze fixed on Margaret. Mum, could you please come here? A ripple of confusion spread through the hall. Margaret froze. Heat rushed to her face. She shook her head slightly, but Emily waited, eyes shining. Slowly, trembling, Margaret walked forward. Every step felt heavy. Every whisper felt louder. As she reached the stage, Emily took her hands and turned to the crowd. This is Margaret Collins, Emily said firmly. The woman who raised a millionaire while earning minimum wage. The woman some of you may have judged tonight because of her clothes. The silence was deafening. She never owned a designer bag, Emily continued. But she owned resilience. She never attended galas, but she attended every school meeting, every late-night homework crisis, every moment I doubted myself. And everything I am, exists because of her. Emily paused, then added softly, Mum, this success is yours. The room erupted, not with polite applause, but with something heavier. Respect. Regret. Awe. People who had laughed earlier stared at their shoes. The woman in the emerald dress swallowed hard. A few guests wiped their eyes. Margaret tried to speak but couldn't. Emily hugged her, long and tight. Later that evening, the same people who had dismissed Margaret lined up to greet her. Compliments replaced assumptions. But Margaret smiled gently, accepting none of it too deeply. She had lived long enough to know that worth doesn't change, only recognition does. As they left the gala together, Emily asked, Are you okay, Mum? Margaret nodded, squeezing her daughter's hand. I always was, she said. They just couldn't see it. And that was the lesson no one forgot that night: never measure a person by what they wear, because sometimes the quiet woman in faded clothes is the reason a millionaire is standing tall on the stage.